Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to understand one of the frequently asked Android interview questions, that is launch versus async in Kotlin. Okay. So folks, before we begin, one quick question to all of you. If you have, ever started at launch and async and thought like both starts coroutines, right? So what is the major difference between both of them? If you have actually thought about this, then be rest assured that you are not alone. So today I will explain you it so clearly that you will never confuse them again. All right. And the simplest comparison between launch versus async, I would say, is imagine you ask two friends to do some work for you. The first one just does the work and moves on. However, the second one, the other one, does the work and gives you a result back. So that is actually literally, the difference between launch and async. Okay. So the quick roadmap for today, so that you all know that what is coming. We will start with what launch is, followed by what async is, then the real difference between both of them, some layman analogies, followed by Android real world examples, and then some common mistakes that usually we do, and how we can choose correctly. All right. So let's start with section one, which is what is launch. All right. So launch is basically fire and forget. Okay. Launch is used when you want to start a coroutine and you don't care about the result. Okay. So that is fire and forget. I'll read the code for you now. So the code says view model scope.launch and you are saving the user. Now in this case, you're not expecting anything to come back to you. All right. The whole intention of this is that you just want to save the user. You are not worried about if the user is saved or not. It's just that the post API, maybe for example, you can say, you are not waiting for any result to come back. So the simple example I would say is like you tell your friend, bro, please switch off the lights. And you don't wait for the confirmation. All right. Your friend will switch off or turn off the lights. All right. So that's what the launch is. Now we will understand what is async. So async is used when you need a result back. As I've mentioned in the simple layman theory, that if something is expected out of someone, then that is the place where you should be using async. It returns a deferred T. T is of, a generic type, a result, basically a future result. All right. So in this case, you ask your friend, bro, check my exam result and tell me my marks. And then you wait for the answer. So that is what the async is used for. If you ask someone and expect the result out of it, you wait for the result. That is the place you use async. And if you don't want any answer to be written back to you and you don't want to wait for it, you just fire and forget, then you go ahead with launch. So that is the major difference between both of them. All right. Now we will see the section 3, which says launch versus async. The core difference. It returns no result. It returns the result. It is fire and forget. It is based on the future result. It is used for side effects. It is used for computation, of course. Side effects as in like something which you want to do parallelly along with your main execution. And used for computation as in like you want to execute something and based on that you want to save some data and you want to bring back some data and you want to store it on the UI. That is what some kind of computation. It returns a job. So the written type of launch is job. Guys, don't confuse yourself. Although it does not return anything, but there is a written type of everything, right? So the written type for launch is job, which can be used for like job.cancel, job.start. So that's what it is used for. And it returns the deferred class, meaning like the class that you are expecting out of it. That is what it returns. So that is what the difference between both of them. If you don't call await on async, congratulations, you just used it like launch. All right. So this is very much important, guys. You have to make use of await as a function which will wait for the result to come, and once the result is received, it will be saved into this val user and it can be used in any of the view classes. But if we don't use result.await, that means that if this line is used, then that means it is just as simple as using the launch coroutine. All right. So let's read about some real world examples where we can use launch and where we can use async. So launch can be used for saving data, for loggings, for updating DB, for analytics events. All right, because in none of them we will expect any result to come back to us. However, if you use async, it can be used for parallel API calls. Like for example, if you're making two API calls, right, and you want to combine the result for both of them and bring back on the UI, then of course you should go ahead with the async option. All right, then fetching combined data, as I've mentioned you in this case, and some calculations, because in calculations also you would want something to come back, right? For example, view model scope.launch, and then there are two API calls, user equals to async and then fetch user. So that's how you make an API call. You make use of async as a keyword. Inside the lambda, you call the function. Then another call, post, where you are fetching the post. Now you want to show both of them together, then show in the function you're using user.await, post.await. You are waiting for the result to come. Once the result will arrive, then you display it on the UI according to your use case. All right, so that's how it works. So the common mistakes that usually we do is using async without await. That is true. That's what I've mentioned in the above slide. Then using launch when result is needed, of course, because launch is not meant to return you something. All right. Then blocking thread using run blocking, of course, because if we use run block, then of course it will block the entire scope. Then forgetting exception handling, that is so true and so important, guys. If you are using either launch or you are using async, you should be handling the exceptions very carefully, because there are chances that any of them, or the API calls, or any kind of calculation computation may throw an exception. All right, so most production bugs come from misuse of async. That is what my observation is. You may also have your own observation, I'm sure, but that's what I have observed, and I've seen developers using async and they don't use await, or they don't manage to handle the exceptions. All right, so the final takeaway is the one line rule to remember. If you need a result, of course you use async. If you don't want a result, you use the launch. That is as simple as that. All right. So folks, that's pretty much about launch versus async in the simplest way possible. And if this made things clear to you, then hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment. And chapter 5 is coming next, and it's going to be a game changer. All right, I'll see you in the next one.